Welcome everyone to a new series on the Knee Pit Gaming channel, and that is Dirt 4. So we're going to start this series on the channel with a disclaimer, and that is this is my very first entry in the Dirt franchise. I've not played any of the previous entries, so if you're tuning in to see a veteran of the series who's going to show you all the tips and tricks to blast your way up to the top of the leaderboard, you are in the wrong place. This series is going to be about having fun and me discovering a different type of racing. So I've got a little bit of familiarity with rally racing. I'm familiar with what it is. I've heard of rallycross. I've seen a little bit of it on TV, but that's the extent of it. I know very little of anything about the cars and how the racing is done, how events are held, that type of stuff. So this is going to be about having fun and discovering a new type of racing and all the fun and challenge that that's going to bring along with it. So I have no expectations that I'm going to be high up on the leaderboard at all, but I'm simply going to have a blast with this game. So recently on the channel, if you've been following along, I've been playing a lot of strategy type things. Motorsport Manager is one of the more recent games that I've been playing, but I'm ready to get back to some driving. I'm ready to get back to some racing. And that's something that really got me started many years ago in racing. So I'm back to it now with Dirt 4. So we're going to take a look in this video at the various options and screens that the game has to offer. And in future videos, we'll get into some gameplay itself. So we're going to start out here going through the options and extras. So right now what we're looking at is the main menu, and we'll be coming back to it periodically throughout the video. So for options and extras, you've got all the things that you would expect to see here that we'll be going through, spending more time in some than in others. So we'll start with game preferences. So this is where you're going to decide what type of experience do you want to have. Now, I've chosen the handling style, but as you can see, there is the gamer side, which says, hey, I'm here for an arcade experience. I just want to have fun. I'm not interested in a challenge. Or you can go to the simulation side of things, which is where I am. And you're here for the challenge. The fun is in the challenge. So that's what I've chosen, which leads us into the difficulty settings. You've got a lot of options here. Right now, I am on the custom preset. Some of these options were chosen for me by the game. When you first come into the game, the first thing you will do is you will run a rally stage where it introduces you to the concept of rally racing. It introduces you to the concept of your co-driver, the turn markers 1 through 6 and hairpins and all of that kind of stuff, and sort of gets you an introduction to how things work. Well, whenever you complete that, it gives you an option to say, hey, we think you should compete on this level. And then you can choose to go with that or change it to suit your desires. So right now I am on the highest level of difficulty. I do know that there's one additional level of difficulty that can be unlocked later on, but for now, this is the best it gets for me. So I basically wanted to see if I could compete on the toughest level with the AI. Restarts. I've got this at 0, and the reason for that is this has to deal with if you get off to, just speaking of rallies for a moment, if you get off to a bad start in a rally, let's say you get off track, you get into a barrier, and you lose a lot of time, then normally in a game, you would just have the opportunity to pause the game, hit escape, and restart the stage. Well, I've turned that off. Okay, I have the option of cranking this number to, all the way from unlimited down to the 0 number that I'm at now. And the reason I did that is just for the experience. I want to force myself to have to really pay attention and get the most out of each particular stage in each event, because I'm not going to have an opportunity to restart it and have any do-overs. So I'm going to have to pay attention. If I get off the track, I pay the price. Okay, repairs. I've got auto repairs turned on. You do have the option to manage the repairs yourself, and essentially what this comes down to is between rally stages and perhaps even between events, I've not really paid that much attention to it, but between rally stages, you'll have a certain amount of damage that's done to the vehicle. You have your normal wear and tear on the car that you're going to get regardless, plus any damage that you take from running into barriers, trees, you name it. You're going to have to repair that damage as much as you can with the time you have between stages. And you're going to have some staff on your team to help you out with that as things go along. But essentially, I didn't want to have to mess with all of that. So I have auto repairs on for now. Who knows what the future will bring, and maybe I'll decide I want to manage that a little bit more closely. But for now, auto repairs are on. The computer takes care of all repairs. Now, I do want to add that there's not enough time between each stages of a rally to repair all of the damage. So don't think that you can go and run over trees in the first stage and almost demolish your car and then come back in the second stage of a rally and have a brand new car every day. It's not going to work that way. You're going to have wear and tear on the car, and if you do damage, chances are you're not going to have the staff necessary to completely repair your car, and therefore are going to have to deal with a damaged car in future rally stages, which is why the restarts become so important. And that, because I have those on 0, that means I'm going to have to really pay attention, and I'm going to have to pay the price for my mistakes. Okay, now we move on to driver assist. These, for the most part, I've turned off. On all of those, I do have automatic windshield wipers. That's definitely not something I have time for during a rally stage. I need all the concentration I can muster just to get me through the stage. Transmission is manual sequential. I am using a Logitech G920 wheel, which is traditionally an Xbox wheel, although I am playing this on the PC. But I'll not be using the clutch. I'm not a big fan of the pedals that come with the G920. So I'll just leave it at that for now. But I will not be using the clutch, so I'll be using the paddle shifters on the wheel. Now, the time control braking was something I wasn't familiar with, but I can tell you, at the very bottom of the screen, you have a help menu, which is great. Time control braking, which most of these, if you are familiar with playing racing games, you'll know that, okay, launch control, I know what that is, stability, traction control, all of those things you're familiar with, but time control braking refers to the end of the stage. As after you finish, essentially this allows the AI to take more control of your car and essentially get you to where you need to be once the stage is over. So I've turned essentially all of this off, and I'm getting a plus 94% difficulty bonus because of all these settings. Now, I will mention this periodically in any racing game I'm playing, whether it's NASCAR or in this case Dirt 4. This is neither good nor bad. It's simply a function of how you decide that you want to play the game. So we're going to back out of this screen. We've got other gameplay options, the camera field of view. Now, you can choose to do with this whatever you want. These are essentially defaults for me. Even though I've played about 5 hours in the game in the last couple of days, it's not really very many changes that I've made. The camera shake, again, I may have reduced this a little bit, but I'm thinking pretty much I haven't changed any of this. Now, your co-driver calls is definitely going to be a personal preference thing. It's kind of like your spotter in NASCAR. How much information do you want and when do you want it? Well, here the co-driver is critical because they're telling you what turns are coming up, and this is determining how quickly do they let you know this. So I feel like at some point I'm going to have to make an adjustment here, but at this point I'm not sure because there are some stages that I think I needed the information a little bit earlier, particularly on hairpins. And then there's some times that I feel like they're giving me information that is maybe 2 or 3 corners too far ahead for where I'm at, and it ends up cluttering up my brain, and I end up making mistakes because I'm trying to remember what they're telling me too far in advance and forgetting to actually make the corners. So cockpit, driver, and wheel, do you want to see the animations of the wheel on the screen and the driver's hands and arms? Unpause countdown, again, all of this is on the default, and of course, because I'm in the US, we're using imperial units here. So your basic options for the most part here, with a few additional options because this is rally racing. Profile, not really a whole lot going on there. Choose your name, age range, and where you're from for the most part. Okay, so not a whole lot to look for there. You do have a couple of options here for the picture that's displayed, but again, not a whole lot going on in that area. Okay, so input, not a whole lot going on this screen. Every time you restart the game, it'll have some percentages there. So what I did just now is to just touch essentially the throttle pedal and it resets everything to 0. You can go through your calibration, choose your steering device. As I mentioned previously in the video, we're using a Logitech G920 wheel. And then you've got some things to manage, such as assigning various different buttons and the different bindings that you can have for, particularly for like your handbrake and things like that. Windshield wipers, all of that would be an option to do within the input bindings. Okay, so we're going to back out of there again, all pretty much standard material for a racing game. Now we're going to get into the graphics settings. I will tell you that I'm using a preset of custom, but my graphics card is a GTX 1070, so I can essentially max out everything in here. There are a few things that may not be quite maxed out. For the most part, those are things that I don't really care about one way or another. I did turn off motion blur because I simply don't care for it, and that's a personal preference thing. So for the most part, everything is maxed out there. I've noticed no real hitches or issues within the game as far as the graphics and the frames per second go. I'm playing on 1080p, full screen mode. VSync is off. So again, those are all the default settings that the game chose based on my graphics card, and I really haven't had any reason to make any changes. Okay, let's back out of the graphics and go into the audio. Here is a place where I do have some issues with the game. It may turn out that there are some things that I could do. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, I'm new to the series. I'm not claiming any expertise, so there may be some things I'm missing that you guys determine as I'm saying things in the video. You're like, oh, you could actually make these changes. You're just not aware of it yet. So menu music, I've turned it completely off. The menu and general music in this game is sort of a light. It's a weird blend of music. I would have expected more of an up tempo type music, but it's more almost an elevator music type of atmosphere. Even though the music itself is more of the modern style with pop music, it just doesn't seem right to me, and definitely not something I want to hear while I'm racing. So I've turned off that, and then the replay music, haven't really looked at any replay, so I've turned it down, but I did leave a little bit in the background. Okay, the effects, here's where I start to have some issues with the game. All right, I know I need to hear my co-driver. So I want to have maxed out volume there. I want to always make sure I can hear my co-driver, and I want to always make sure I can hear my engine because I'm going to have to rely on that for when to shift gears. I'm having some issue with that because I find that the graphics are not enabling me to see which gear I'm in very easily. And also the HUD doesn't seem to give me any way that I've found anyway. It doesn't seem to give me a way to see my RPMs, my gear, anything like that. So I'm having a hard time deciphering all of the sounds because everything seems to be at the same volume. So I'm trying to make some changes there. Particularly one of the issues I'm having is with, I'm guessing they're calling the crash effect. If you run into something, there is a very obnoxious, loud noise that doesn't sound like anything I've ever heard from a car. It almost sounds like glass breaking, and it generally seems to happen whenever you hit something with the left front or the right front. But it does, it sounds like glass breaking, and it's extremely loud and annoying. It's so abrupt. It's weird. It's almost like you ran through a glass building and shattered, several panes of glass all at one time. It's very odd and very sort of immersion breaking for me. But the effects, and surfaces, I try to keep those on, although the effects I'm probably going to be reducing as time goes on and as I play around more with the game itself. Voice chat has not really been an issue because I've not played any multiplayer. And so really, other than that, not a whole lot to speak of as far as sounds, but I did want to let you know that the audio is a little bit odd when combined with the HUD, particularly with the engine notes, and your co-driver callouts. But again, all of that could just be that my brain is trying to speed up the fact that now I'm having to listen to a co-driver tell me where it is I'm going because I have no idea and I'm going very fast. Video library shows you the trailer, also some beginning cinematics that you'll find throughout the game. Each time you go into a new area that you have not been to before, there will be sort of a trailer, an introductory cinematic that will play, and this is where you will find those if you want to go back and watch them again. RaceNet is the online functionality. You'll have to create an account if you don't already have one from previous games. So I had to do that at the very beginning. Then you got your legal and your credit. So that pretty much takes care of the options and extras. Now, one other thing I want to cover in this video before we'll move on to another video where we'll cover some of the other options in the game is the mailbox. Now, I have a couple of things in my mailbox. First and foremost, because I have played for 5 hours, I've played a little bit into the career mode. You can see here that my current sponsor says that my recent performance is falling below their expectations. Yeah, big shock there, that I'm not doing quite as good as they would prefer me to do. So there are things like that that you're going to encounter. Nearly, if not all of the messages I've received to this point have been related to the career mode and my team specifically. So those are the first two options you have within the game. Let's continue on and look at the My Team option. Okay, we're going to save events and vehicles for another video, but we're going to finish up this video discussing My Team. Now, My Team is not unlocked at the very beginning of the game. My Team is unlocked as you progress through the career mode. Granted, it doesn't take very long to unlock it, but essentially you're going to unlock the My Team mode as soon as you get enough credits through completing different rally events in order to make enough money to buy your first car. Okay, as soon as you do that, you unlock the My Team mode. And the way the game works is any events that you want to enter, you have one of two choices. If you already own a car that is eligible for that event, then you can use your own car. If you do not, then you can choose to race for a different team and essentially be loaned a car, but that team is going to keep most of your winnings. So it means that the amount of money that you stand to make is drastically less. It's going to be probably at least half, if not quite a bit more than that, as far as reduction in your pay. So keep that in mind. You'll want to purchase cars that will make sense for you long-term, cars that you plan on doing a lot of racing in. You'll want to purchase those so that you can keep the profits going forward and really continue to build your team. So why do you want to build your team? What do you spend the money on? Well, here are your three options. You've got staff, you've got facilities, and then also you have your branding and your sponsors. We'll start off by taking a look at the staff. And these are your employees. Now, I'm extremely early on in the game. I've done very little in this section, but you can see already I have some spots that are locked out for engineers. These are the ones that are going to be making repairs and upgrades on your car. I have a chief engineer, which the quality is E, that it's at the very bottom. You're going to have an engineer, in this case B, which is great, and that's because he was free. So that saved me quite a bit of money. I assume that's the game's way of saying, hey, here's something to help you get started because we know you're going to be crashing a lot and you're going to need to make some repairs and hopefully quickly. So there we go. I have one engineer and the game was nice enough to give me a B level engineer. Now I've got some other unlocks here and we'll see those in other sections of the My Team, but I also have a PR agent. This is the person who's responsible for negotiating your sponsorships and how much money you get and the length and the terms and all those types of things. So you'll want to get the best you can. I start off at the very bottom with an extremely low level PR agent. Now I do have the option of firing this guy and finding someone else. But again, that's going to take money and more resources, which I do not have just yet. Co-driver, you have the option. If I click on co-driver here, you have several other options. You can see the different nationalities. So this would make it more at home. Theoretically, I have chosen a co-driver This is the default co-driver who is from America. So if you have a preference for that, then you do have options there. A spotter, you have a different spotter for rally versus rally cross. And there is my spotter for that. And you can see Land Rush, a different spotter as well. So I have not gotten very much into that, but you can see there's going to be some employees. And also you notice here on the right-hand side of the screen with each employee, the duration of their contract, which is permanent. So you don't have to worry about how many events they're going to be working before you're going to have to either rehire them or find new staff. Their mood, they can be in bad mood, good mood, and so on, which will be affected by the decisions you make on various facilities that you offer for the team and the team members. Also, their cut. So the better you do, the better they do. In this case, 3%, which was a standard amount. Again, I've not messed with much of any of this. And any additional traits they have, these can be positive or negative. So you have to make sure they don't get into a negative mood. Okay, there's your trait selfish there. So not necessarily a good trait to have. So that's a look at your staff section. Let's go into the facilities and we'll save the branding and sponsors for last. Okay, under the facilities, you can see several different options for upgrading your team here in the various different areas. So you have accommodations. The better the quality of accommodations you have, the happier your team members will be. Happier staff means better performance on the parts and quicker repairs. So if I click on, in this case, accommodation, you can see right now, essentially, I don't have anything there. So for 25 grand, which I don't quite have, I only have about 20,000 because I spent some money on some other upgrades and purchasing a car. So I could upgrade to C level accommodations for 25 grand. And you can see here a description of what that would do. I could get a larger team of engineers, quicker repairs is what that tells me. So that sounds like a good idea. Okay, then we have a branding department. Now, this is one of the first things I purchased, and you can see there are no upgrades for this. This was actually free, and it gave me the highest quality. Okay, so we can back out of that. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about upgrading moving forward. Then you've got catering, and you can see on the right under the description, it says show your appreciation for your staff by treating them to good quality catering. So this will improve their mood, and they're most likely to get an upgrade and feeling upbeat. So right now I have no catering. I could upgrade and get the most basic, and you can see the amount of money it will take there. So several different options. You start out with 4 garage slots. You could increase that to 8 for $100,000 and then continue moving forward from there. Then you get into logistics regarding equipment. Then you got a lounge, and again, all based on your staff and how well you treat them, and several different things. I did find the private collector was interesting because essentially what it's telling me here is in the classified section, which we'll look at in a future video, that you'll be able to find rarer vehicles in there. Right now I don't have anything in this, but for 50 grand I could have a little bit better chance of finding some better vehicles, more rare vehicles there. We've got an R&D center, which is responsible for getting me higher quality parts. Now, what this will do is essentially upgrades my car. Better quality parts wear out slower, but they are more expensive. So if you have to replace a part, then it's going to cost you more money. So you have to figure out the balance there for the amount of money you have available. And also you can see here, even if I had the funds available, I can't do it because you have to be a level 14, and I am currently only at a level 10. So some of these are going to be locked out until you progress to a certain portion of the game. Now, here's something you'll want to keep in mind going forward, and that is taking care of your sponsors. Okay, so if you bring more promotional merchandise to the events, this increases your visibility, and sponsors will enjoy that, and you should have more room for sponsorship. So this will definitely be something I'll be looking at getting into going forward. The idea of making more money, of course, is always good when building your team. Then you've got The toolbox, which, as the name would indicate, will give your engineers better quality tools, which means better resources, which means better repairs and improvements. Okay, and then finally, we've got a VIP suite and a workshop. So as you increase your workshop, the team has more space to work on the vehicles, and it'll provide you a discount in the cost of upgrades. So all of these things sound like things you want to get into and want to do, which could mean a very lengthy career campaign to actually max out all of these, which in turn would, of course, increase the performance of your car. So finally, we're going to take a look at the other section, the third and final section in the My Teams area, and that is branding and sponsors. This is one I've had a little bit of trouble with. Okay, so it takes it a second to load because this is the area where you're going to be painting your car and also any decals that you're going to have. So here we are, and this shows the one car that I do have right now. Okay, it is the lowest level car, the basic level in the game. And this is where I can start off by changing the name of the team. In this case, Kneepit Gaming is the name of our team. I can change the team pattern from several different options. Again, I've not gotten into this a whole lot, but you can see there's a few options there. Not as many as I would like, but it sort of gets you by. Okay, then we get into team colors. This is where I've had some issues. So you can see here, you've got a lot of options to get you what you want. However, the issue I've had is, although I do have a primary, secondary, tertiary, and a detail color, I can't seem to get any of them to work other than the primary color. So my primary color is the blue that you see here on the car, but that's the only one I can get to work. And then you can see, you can choose the different types of paint and the look of the car itself. So right now, I'm having issues. I'm not sure that I'm guessing there's something I'm doing wrong with this, and there's some option I'm simply missing that's probably staring me right in the face. But for now, I can't change the secondary color, tertiary color, or the detail color on the car. So again, you've got some very basic options here, not the most outlandish for sure, and you don't have any room to do anything other than your actual sponsors, so no other decals are available to be put on the car. Then you got your driver details, what driver number do you want to use, and both the color of the number and the color of the driver's names and logos on the car. So again, some very basic options. Now, sponsor slots, we've got 2 available, and here you can see the duration of the contract, the offer quality, and the target rewards. And you can see here, for the most part, the rewards are very similar. As I continue to move up through, you can see the required skill is much higher, and this is where the upgrades come into play. Okay, so we're, for now, working with these sponsors, and let's see, looks like we've got, okay, let's go with this option. I haven't chosen them before, so we'll go there. Let's go ahead and view the offer that comes with that. Okay, so they're going to offer me 1,825 credits. That has been negotiated by our agent. So again, the better the agent, the better the money you're likely going to get. Okay, so you're going to receive that money and get it for 3 championships. We're going to accept that offer. And now as the car spins around, which by the way, I don't have any way of changing this. Okay, I don't have any way of manually spinning the car around. I just sort of have to wait till it moves around on its own. So now we got room for a secondary sponsor. Let's go ahead and see what we want to do there. Okay, I like the idea of 3 championships. Let's go ahead and keep these. Okay, let's choose this one. And again, sum of 1,825. Let's accept the offer. So now you can see the sponsor logos around the car. And then as we continue to upgrade our team and get better PR, particularly, we will unlock more room for more sponsors. So right now our PR agent only has a skill of 22. So we're going to need to improve that and get a better PR manager in order to do a better job moving forward. So that's your My Team section. Let's go ahead and exit out of the branding suite. We're done painting our car. So those are let's look at some of the basics of the game. Now, you'll notice I didn't show you the events tab and I didn't show you the vehicles tab. And the reason I didn't is because we're going to take a look at those in a separate video because they deserve a video all their own, because that's where the meat of the game comes into play. So thank you very much for joining me in our very first Dirt 4 video here on Knee Pit Gaming, and stay tuned for more Dirt 4.